Woo! Gee. So, the affirmative group has come to the conclusion that Trump's presidency shows signs of an authoritarian government similar to the one from Nazi Germany. The current political, social, and economic climate in the United States offers a base for authoritarian leadership. As President Trump said, "I will build a great wall, and nobody builds walls better than me. Believe me, and I'll build them very inexpensively." Not only is he talking about the United States' southern border, but he's implying to all the borders he will or have put up to block his mindset, which in turn built on his stubbornness and on his control of one of the world's leading countries. The political climate in the United States shows that the political tensions and extremism in the United States rise strikingly after the elections. Therefore, these have created a perfect environment for Trump to manifest himself as an authoritarian leader. One can safely infer that Trump implemented anti-foreign nationalist ideologies that have led to unstable social conditions in the U.S. Lastly, although the U.S. seems economically strong, it has countless economic issues and shows a lot of weaknesses. In conclusion, we believe that there should be a change in Trump's presidency because of the fact that this could lead to another major instance of extreme xenophobia.
If you really must, you can snap, but you don't need to clap. All right, nays?
Lego?
Yeah.
Okay. This side believes that conditions in the contemporary United States are unsuitable for the rise of the Nazi authoritarian regime. Before we start, it is important to define Nazism, or National Socialism. It is a set of beliefs, political beliefs, associated with the Nazi Party of Germany, which emphasizes the will of the charismatic dictator as the sole source of inspiration, and as well as the annihilation of all enemies to the Aryan race. To prove our point, we'll look at both societies through three lenses: political, economic, and social, focusing on military might, media, minority percentages, education, and economic strength of both nations. Now, the opposition might state that the presence of Nazi-like parties in the U.S. right now, for example, KKK or neo-Nazism, would prove itself basis that it is ready, but the lack of the prominence of these groups in the United States is itself fact that the country is not ready for the rise of an authoritarian Nazi regime.
Okay, you answer up with your.
So, we agree with your lenses, and we would like to begin by analyzing too the economical. So, despite having a seemingly strong economy, the United States is plagued with economic issues that could potentially be a gateway to an authoritarian leader. So, the main strength of the economy right now is employment. The U.S. claims to have the strongest employment rate it has had in 16 years. And despite this being true, the jobs are very menial, and there have been very low wages throughout the new jobs created. So basically, these jobs have no quality, and people are still unhappy with their economical conditions. So if Trump exploited this unhappiness in the similar way that Hitler did in Nazi Germany, it could be a gateway for this authoritarian styles of economic plans. And according to OCDE, the U.S. has a trade deficit of $43 billion, and Trump has utilized this economic condition as a reason to why other countries are in some way abusing the United States. Similar to the way that Hitler claimed that other nations, such as the Belgians and the French, he blamed them for hyperinflation during the Ruhr, and this incited nationalism. In the same way that Trump has stated, quote, Mexico and China are raping us. So basically, these economic conditions are a gateway for these type of nationalistic responses. Also, Trump has spoken a lot against NAFTA, one of the biggest economic treaties of our time, and has blamed it for a significant amount of the economic issues of the United States today. in the same way that Hitler blamed the Treaty of Versailles, which is not particularly economical but did affect Germany in many economical ways, for the demise of Germany, in the same way that Trump has claimed the same for NAFTA. And in the political lens, so political tensions and extremism have increased since the elections, creating a perfect environment for Trump to manifest himself as an authoritarian leader. So basically, even within the United States Republican Party, there are a lot of divisions, and Trump has overridden many of the Republican decisions and spoken against these decisions made by his own party. He has spoken publicly about his political policies that include a lot of abuse, similar to the ones of Hitler, and basically, to just put it all into context, Adolf Hitler did many of the things that Trump is doing or wants to do. For example, he used racism to rise to power in the same way that Donald Trump did. He proposed mass deportations. He promised to make Germany great again in the same way that Donald Trump did. And he blamed a particular minority for many of the country's problems. And so, in the same way that Donald Trump did. So, yeah.
Okay, so before we actually go on to social, I would like for you to look at the highlighted phrase that said, but several reliable, well-informed sources confirm the idea that Hitler's anti-Semitism was not so genuine or violent as it sounded, and that he was barely using anti-Semitism propaganda as a bait to catch the followers and to keep them aroused. So this was also seen in the campaign of Donald Trump. And now, let's go on to the social part. So what does this remind you of? Here we see neo-Nazis, as in the opening statement from your side is stated. But we're not only focusing, these are becoming accepted, they can walk, sprouting these hateful ideologies that are hurtful to society and that damage society, and we don't see them being thrown into jail or anything like that. We see them being photographed and being incentivized with the election of Donald Trump to keep professing that. But it's not only about Nazism that we want to focus on, because in the end, we're arguing for an authoritarian government, not specifically for an authoritarian government that follows Nazism. So what we can see in the first graph is social conflicts in society. This is taken from the Pew Research Center, and it shows how the society climate has been similar to that of Germany. As you can see, rich and poor are growing more distant. Immigrants and native-born are growing further apart. Blacks and white are coming further apart. And these were the causes that why Donald Trump came in the first place. These causes were also seen in Germany. And now we can also see the second graph that says hate groups in the rise in the US. As you can see here, all of them have risen. And anti-Muslim has been the widest part, and this is from 2015 to 2016. So what we can see here is that, yes, okay, we're not going to say there's going to be a Nazi uprising, but what we can say is that the same hate groups that were prevalent in Germany are also prevalent in the United States today. And also, according to CBS News, there's been, after the election of Donald Trump, there's been more bullying at schools where white supremacist students have grown more inclined and have been inclined to shout white supremacist messages. And also, they have been attacks in schools also against minorities and the LGBT community. This is a fact that did not happen before Trump, or it did happen, as you can see in the first graph, but it wasn't as prevalent. As with Hitler, when Hitler rose to power, the hurtful ideologies and the hate groups also grew in power. This has also happened in the United States. But maybe, you're not so convinced. So I want to point you to the idea of the propaganda. Trump has actually shaped how people think of Trump. So before I actually go on to these images, I would like to remind you of the same definition that you guys put at the beginning of the debate that said that the authoritarian leadership featured a charismatic leader as the sole leader of a nation. Well, Trump, as cited by The Economist, is more believed from conservatives as a more trustful source of news than CNN, but also than Fox. Even Fox, that's supposed to be, this conservative news channel, is not as trustworthy as Trump, as this sole leader. And here in these two instances, both of them have gone on and said their messages, said their hurtful messages to what is supposed to build society, the Boy Scouts. Both of them attended Boy Scouts, and here Trump did not say, oh, welcome Boy Scouts. He didn't stop there. He also supported the idea that fake news was taking over the country and that Clinton and that Obama should not be part of the government. So you can see this leader, this sole leader, advocating from the base of society and what it builds. But now, in the end, you can say, well, there's been groups, people are going to support him, people are not going to let him do the same things as Hitler did. But there was also opposition in Nazi Germany. Here it's from 1932 in Berlin, advocating, you can see a massive rally advocating against the Nazi government. So, like the United States and in Germany, there's also been opposition groups to the government. Opposition does not necessarily mean, however, that an authoritarian government is not going to take a stand and take control. Thank you.
Okay, so a break for a couple minutes if you guys get your.
Okay, so I would just like to point out that there are some fallacies and we have conclusive facts that you just gave in your argument, lacking specific data and statistics needed to actually make sense. First of all, your statistics on economic issues, they weren't very complete. First of all, you said that the unemployment rate was equal to that of Germany, basically. You said that like the same sentiment that they had with the unemployment is similar to the one that's in the USA right now. And I would just like to say that in the US right now it's extremely low, the unemployment rate. Meanwhile, in pre-Nazi Germany and in the rise of Hitler, it was so low that people stopped going to their jobs because the currency lost almost all its value. The economic state of the US right now has absolutely nothing to do with extreme hyperinflation that was in Germany before. After the Versailles Treaty, which didn't have any direct economic implications that he stated that there were. The Versailles Treaty led the country to a complete spiral out of control. They depended on outside sources for all their money. They owed debt to countries outside of their land, which the U.S. currently does not. It doesn't depend its entire economy on someone else's money. So if there is a stock market crash right now, the U.S. wouldn't go into a complete fray because it doesn't depend on another country. Second, you said that socially that there were a lot of issues between the groups, and you gave some facts that stated how people feel about the issues that they have within separate groups. The main issue that was in Nazi Germany was racial. And as you can see in the facts that you stated, only 38% said that there were racial issues, while 78% in your facts said that it was due to economic differences, which wasn't the same sentiment that was during this time period. And also, you stated that Trump is, quote, a charismatic leader. Meanwhile, he quotes all of his fake news, he attacks all of these fake news outlets because they are contradicting what he says, and because they say that he isn't a good leader. So that's where he calls them out as fake news. And there is a vision in his own party showing that he isn't the singular leader that Hitler was seen as. He was seen as a Führer, meanwhile Trump is hated by the majority of his own political party, so it doesn't make any sense to compare them as the same. Also, you said that going back to the conflicts between the social parties, you said that these weren't present before Trump's time, but clearly they were. The first mass shooting recorded in schools was in the 90s. So this was well before Trump was even elected. This was well before Trump was even promoting himself as a political opponent.
Actually, time.
Okay.
Okay. All right, if you guys want to switch over the slideshow.
Sure.
Yeah. No, my drive's over. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, so it's
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
okay.
Did you guys pass over the clicker?
So we're looking at political and military might first, which basically means that in Germany they were demilitarized, so they were not investing a lot in their military, which was what allowed in part Hitler to take power, because people were completely they didn't trust the military. They were deeply ashamed between the Treaty of Versailles and the condition it was. So you can see by Donald Trump tweets, they're actually investing a lot in the military and they're creating support for it. So basically it means in Germany people thought that their military and their government was weak, which allowed Hitler to come with the propaganda, we will create might. When in the US they already have the strongest military in the world. Okay, so media, first of all, yes, Donald Trump attacks the news, and he does say that they are fake news, but he can't take legal action against them, and he can't actually censor them. If you look at although shows like The Daily Show and stuff like that, there is rhetoric against him that is allowed in mainstream media. And then when although Hitler took power in 1933, they controlled less than 3% of Germany's 4,700 papers, and after they controlled 100% of the newspaper that was released. So Donald Trump, yes, he has Fox News, but he doesn't control every single media outlet. So gun control, you were saying that yes, people actually fought against the regime through protest, but Germany was demilitarized and citizens weren't allowed to have guns. So they couldn't take military action against their own government. In the US, there are more than 1,360 active militia groups, which could potentially take arms against the government, which they do have the power of the gun. So and most people would say oh yeah, but these militia groups are actually super white supremacists, but actually they're very against big governments, and authoritarian regimes do rely on big governments and actually controlling every aspect of the population. So arguably they would fight against them. And then social minorities. Hitler was able to take over and kill most of the Jews there because they represent less than 0.75% of the population. When you're looking at minorities in the US, look at the statistics, the difference between 0.75 versus the 14.9 Hispanic or Latino, the 11.1% of blacks, it would be much harder to completely take them over. It's close to 20% versus 0.75% of the population. And then social education, so they were saying that teaching methods in Germany developed throughout education to emphasize and prepare youths for war. And in the US, under federal law, race discrimination in education is prohibited. And so actually you can't teach people that. So you can't amount the support that you have in Nazi Germany. So racist rhetoric is just not allowed in schools. And if it is, you could argue that, yeah, the teachers still do it. There are assessments and they defund schools, especially if they're federal. And private schools are also limited. And then economic inflation, that's what we were talking in kind of the counter-argument. The post-war Germany had the highest inflation rate seen in history due to high reparation rates over printing currency, and the United States top market crash, as seen in the picture that lovely Dr. Smith provided in class periods before. And then the current inflation rate for the United States is 1.7%. And if you look at it comparatively, it isn't as high as you would expect it to be. So actually the conditions, yeah, you could, Trump could inflate them and say, yes, you're all going to, down, this is terrible. But in reality, there aren't as many unhappy people that are starving. There's a difference between being unemployed and starving, which I think is very important. Closing statement. And that's
Yeah? Yeah. Okay. All Alright, so a couple minutes for you guys to prepare for your counter, and you guys be taking. Alright, let's go.
Alright, so you guys made several intelligent remarks. I admire you guys, but there are several things I have to point out that I think are worthy. So yes, Trump does not have the, do you want me?
Do you want
No, that's great. So yes, Trump does not have the ability to ban news networks and censor them directly, but he can censor them indirectly, and he has. Trump has recently started his own news network, which he has proclaimed as being the one and only true news network. It's and at the end of every episode of this news network, and I must state that this news network, the anchors, the anchorman or woman, are his daughter, his secretary members, people in his cabinet. And at the end of all of these news network episodes that he's created, they say, and this has been the real news. This, along with actions such as blocking several news networks from press conferences, such as CNN, is deliberate censorship by hiding information from news networks or making it harder to obtain, and then promoting your own news networks over those that have been presented towards the audience. He has literally created a government-owned news network. Continuing onwards, you mentioned guns in Germany and the lack of that, while the guns in the U.S. and how the American population has the ability to rise up against the government, as so the Constitution of the U.S. states, and that they probably wouldn't allow for an authoritarian state because many of these people do not enjoy an authoritarian state. The thing is, many of these people would probably enjoy an authoritarian state if it benefited their needs. For example, controlling the lives of different people in abortion, controlling the lives of different people in sexual orientation and expression. If a government that is leaning more towards authoritarianism represented those ideals, it may allow some of the population to be more susceptible to allowing this type of government to continue onwards, and maybe even turn their eyes away from it. In addition, it would be hard after what Trump is doing, which is similar to what Hitler did with the Gestapo. Trump has now increased the amount of guns, the heavy-duty guns that the police can now own on the streets, something that Obama had taken away and that now he has created again and brought back even stronger. The idea that the police can now have even more power with arms, which would mean that civilian uprising to this would be even harder to defeat. Going onwards, you mentioned that the genocide of the Jews would be completely impractical in Trump's case, that the population of minorities is bigger, it'd be harder, and it wouldn't be the same. So the Jew genocide was a horrible, horrible thing. However, there's more than one way to kill a society, to kill a culture, and cultural genocide is a thing, and that's what Trump has been preaching for a long time. It's even one of his phrases, drain the swamp. Drain the swamp is directly talking about cultural genocide, which involves deportation of minorities, banning of minorities from the state, such as the anti-Muslim ban. Allowing people to continue onwards. Going forth, you mentioned that the economic states are different, and that's true. However, the blue-collar worker is who has always supported Trump, the blue-collar worker who has always been afraid of their jobs and their employment. And regardless of whether that is true, it's what they feel is true that matters, and what matters to Trump, because Trump gains advantage of their fears, just like Hitler did regarding Jews, minorities, and the allowance of jobs, the fact that Jews owned all the money, and that wasn't right. This idea Trump has used again and again, the idea that Mexicans are taking jobs, and that isn't right because they belong to the white worker who has been here for a long time.
I gotta stop you, sorry. Time's up. Okay, thanks. So what we need to do now, you guys have a couple minutes for closing. And you guys are up for closing first. Do any of you have slides for closing that you need to put up?
Yes.
So you're already up anyway, okay.
Overachiever for the win.
Where's the clicker?
Click 2 times.
Oh.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, that didn't show up. Actually, let's just quote it.
Is there something after?
I can do this right now.
So, well, Pablo reads it, that's actual turn.
Okay.
So, we stand with our initial stance that the current political, social, and economic climate in the United States offers a base for authoritarian leadership. So, Trump may not turn out to be the next Hitler. There's obviously differences between the regime and their personal views. However, we do not have the liberty to ignore the similarities that we have shown. Economically speaking, the economy seems strong, very strong in fact, especially with the low unemployment rate, but it has an underlying weakness in menial labor. People are discontent about the factory jobs that they're given. The blue-collar worker is discontent. Politically, we have a demagogue. He's blaming minorities, marginalizing them, silencing them, and talking about fake media, establishing himself as the only credible source of news in the country. And socially. Racial tensions. Tensions that have been present for centuries. We're not denying that. But what Trump has done is normalize them. He's normalized the fact that people should and can silence these minorities, that they should take up arms and commit acts of violence against them, as Charlottesville shows. He's talking to Boy Scouts about these issues, which is reminiscent of Hitler talking to his Hitler Youth, and the hate groups, the closet racists that have now risen, as I previously stated. We have seen the similarities between the Nazi regime and Trump's actions, in that Trump is starting to take the path of Hitler's. Certain nuances and stances that he's taken has given not just us, but the entire nation and even the world a certain intuition that he's becoming like Hitler. To deny these similarities is to make the same mistake past leaders of nations did a century ago. And our beautiful tweet from Barack Obama, no one is born hating another person because of the color of their skin or his background or his religion. The most popular tweet in Twitter history.
Snaps. Alright. And do you guys have do you want to put up a slide or no?
No.
Okay. You guys are up?
I will provide a recap of her statements and further give more evidence in order to support our arguments, as well as giving a closing statement and a conclusion to why the opposition should win this debate. So first of all, our team stated the fear of the military not being strong enough in the German government versus the United States right now, which is one of the countries that is giving the most money, economic aid to the military. Also, I think it's important to point out that the United States is the second highest GDP in the year 2017 versus Germany, who still owes that to this day to its neighboring countries, the damages and losses of World War II and World War I. Second of all, I am going to go through the media and how our team stated the Hitler controlled of the media versus Trump, who